Yeah, it's a good number, but the question is it good enough in this field when you've got Bernie Sanders out there raising money online, largely from small dollar donors? And we'll see what number the Biden campaign puts out for its average donation in the fourth quarter of 2019. But that idea that you can raise money, as Bernie Sanders is doing, in huge numbers from a huge number of people means that Bernie Sanders has a real advantage here, which is that his donors aren't maxed out yet. They haven't written the maximum size check allowed under the law, and therefore Bernie can go back to those donors again and again and again throughout the year. To the extent that the Biden campaign has a lot of donors who have already written the biggest check they can write, they can't go back to those folks again, and that might represent a real challenge for him going forward under the traditional establishment fundraising methodology. There are only so many wine caves you can go to in any given day, right? You've got to raise money. It's hard to do the old-fashioned way, and Sanders is pointing out that the new-fashioned way might be the way to go.
So there's a lot of focus, Brian, on the Democratic side, as there naturally would be. But the champion of the fundraisers is Donald Trump.
That's
when
right.
You look at what he's raised and the cash on hand.
Yeah, and of course, the caveat of that is he's not in a primary right now. He can kind of do all of this on his own. He's raised about $46 million, has $102 million on hand. That is just his campaign. We don't even have the numbers yet for the RNC, his joint fundraising committee. He really has created this fundraising juggernaut since he entered the White House, and we can see it on display today. That you look at somebody like Bernie Sanders, like Eamon was talking about, he has really solidified his role with those small dollar donors. I mean, it really is incredible. Since 2016, when he lost to Hillary Clinton, he has kept that kind of network and that coalition around him to continue to give to his campaign in 2020 as he tries to, capture the party's mantle.
Well, Eamon, is Trump approaching this campaign differently?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think if you're Donald Trump, you're going to be really happy about this number, right? First of all, you've got the biggest number out there on the list. He's always happy about that. And secondly, you've got a situation where Bernie Sanders now has the staying power to do to Joe Biden what he did to Hillary Clinton last time around, which is hang around really late. There's no establishment donor who can go to Bernie Sanders now and say, you know what, for the good of the party, you better step aside and let someone else be the nominee. Bernie Sanders has enough money and can hit those donors again and again to stay in this race all the way through the convention at this point. And that means for Trump, he's looking at a Democratic Party that could be as divided in 20 as it was in 16. And that's a good thing if you're the incumbent president of the United States, who, remember, because of his electoral college approach to this and his strategy of going after those certain Rust Belt states, it's almost as if he's running for county commissioner in 11 or 12 different counties. I was talking to a prominent Republican strategist earlier today who said, they can pour a lot of money into just a few counties in some of those swing states in the Electoral College, and that can make an enormous amount of difference, whereas the Democrats are going to have to be playing on a much bigger map.
A couple of quick questions, Brian, if I might.
Yep.
Most of Sanders' money being raised via internet?
Yeah, that's right. Most of it through digital.
And as we look at the graphic of the money bags there, two things stand out to me. One is Mr. Yang at $16 million.
Yep.
That's a fairly good number, I would say, for a person you would think of as in a second tier of candidates.
Who may not even end up on a debate stage.
May not even make a debate stage. And number two, where's Elizabeth Warren?
Well, that's the question now, right? I mean, Bernie Sanders, $36 million, Andrew Yang, $16 million. And just last week, we were reporting that Elizabeth Warren, which is days to go in the quarter, had just over $17 million, right? That's how much she raised. Now, at best, let's say best case scenario, she finishes with $20 million. That's still a significant drop from the third quarter. And again, it symbolizes that where is she really going to go get this money going forward? Bernie Sanders, we can clearly see with the data, has the small donor ring. Where is she going to get the money going forward? That's the question.
Eamon, one final question. Let's say Senator Sanders ends the race with the most money on hand and a fair amount of it unspent, and he's not the nominee. What happens to that money?
Yeah, that's a good question. Traditionally, what's happened is that those candidates have been able to deploy that in future campaigns, right? So they can sit on it, or they can direct it in smaller sums to other candidates. They can donate a lot of it to the political party. They have a lot of options, and it makes them sort of a powerful figure behind the scenes. But traditionally, the old saying in politics is that campaigns don't run out of steam because the candidate stops wanting to be president. They run out of steam because the candidate stops being able to raise money. And that's where you have to look at some of these candidates in the below the first tier of the Democratic Party and say, are they going to be able to raise enough money for the long haul to stay in this thing? I think with this number today, Bernie Sanders is demonstrating that he has that capacity. Biden is already the front runner. And then you've got some surprises here, like a Pete Buttigieg, who suddenly is putting up some pretty big numbers himself.
Well, it's two things.
Final thought.
Joe Biden does also have an outside group, a super PAC that's backing him. I'm being told that super PAC has done very well. I don't know the numbers yet, but they have done much better, apparently, than expected. So Biden also has that going for him. There's also another name we did not mention. That's Mike Bloomberg. That is somebody who is always going to be a force in this race. He's around fifth place with about 5% of the vote. The numbers I have now, Mike Bloomberg has spent over $145 million on TV ads alone.
Wow.
And that's the total, just him. And this is just for supporting his campaign. These are ads also that are very anti-Trump as well. These are kind of the factors that are playing into this as we go into 2020 going forward.
Brian Schwartz.